early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Part of our shaping policy for today is to continue our special series on sustainable development goals. Every Wednesday we review that template as set by the United Nations to ensure that there's equity in the world when it comes to the issue of education. Today we're looking at SDG goal number 4, which talks about inclusivity and inclusiveness and exclusive kind of provision for education across the globe. The question is, how is the world catching up when it comes to the issue of providing the right education and opportunities for all to grow? That is what our guest will dwell on. We're being joined by Dr. Peter Ogudoro, who is an educational researcher and expert in this area. Dr. Ogudoro, glad you have joined us on Learning Extinct this morning. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. I've also responded. I say it's my pleasure to join you on the show.
If you can hear me, I'm struggling to hear you here, but if you can hear me, I would like us to start this conversation by looking at the assessment when it comes to the issue of compliance with the Sustainable Development Goal. Precisely, we are looking at goal number 4 that has to do with education globally. What would be your assessment of the level of compliance to the indicators and some of the responsibilities attached to achieving this goal? It is intended that the year 2030 that there will be equal opportunities for all when it comes to the issue of education. This is year 2024, 6 years away. How will you assess the level of success, or if you call it failure, depending on your side of the coin, as regards the issue of implementation of SDG goal number 4? Talk to us.
Okay, excellent. So the truth we know is that indeed we have some framework that is supposed to make it easy for us to provide every Nigerian, especially the younger ones, the opportunity to go to school and get education that can empower them to become globally competitive. We have the Universal Basic Education Commission, which has access to billions of naira. Interestingly, we are not achieving as much as we thought that platform can help us to achieve because of systemic flaws in our country, and then all kinds of problems hitting us from left, right, and center. In the northeastern part of our country, we know that security challenges there have remained more or less intractable, and that has kept a lot of children out of classrooms and also has discouraged good quality teachers from teaching in those kinds of places because kidnapping is going on, people are being killed, terrorists are telling us that education is haram and all kinds of other challenges. But even in the places where we are not terribly harassed security-wise, in places like Lagos, Ogu, probably Benin, Calabar, Uyo, we still discover that many children are still out of school. Overall in the country, we know that as many as up to 20 million Nigerian children are not in classrooms every day to learn. And that's very disappointing and scandalous in the year 2024. And this has a lot to do with the fact that politicians don't seem to understand and believe that truly education is the bedrock of development. So they take care of their own children abroad, and care less about the children of ordinary people in the streets. And that's very unfortunate for us. Even when it comes to access to higher education, even when we know that our higher education is decrepit at the moment, but that small loaf is not even being made available to as many young people as are interested in having access to it. And eventually where we are is that you have to pay. If you can't pay, then you have to borrow money to do so, and you have to refund when you graduate. So we haven't taught well as it concerns education in our country. So when you're talking about inclusivity, we are still very far from it. If you move towards the adults, that it gets more tricky because so many millions of Nigerian adults are not able to read and write. And when your parents are not educated, it becomes difficult for you to grow up in an environment that will provide you the inspiration and encouragement and motivation to actually see education as a tool in your hands to improve yourself and migrate out of poverty into levels where you can find comfort and also acquire the knowledge, skills, and values that will prepare you for the role you're supposed to play in society. So, Femi, by way of summary, we are very far away from where we're going to, and it's unrealistic for anybody to believe that by the year 2030, that Nigeria will be a country where everybody will have access to good quality education. That's a mirage.
All right, access is one thing, the quality of the education is another. So while the government works on access to education, let's look at the quality of the education itself. You mentioned that millions of people cannot read and write. Some have gone through the 4 walls of what you call a school, but still can't read and write. What's wrong with that kind of education that they received?
Yeah, of course, you know that when you are not able to read and write, and when you haven't been able to develop your mental faculties to a level that you can engage society fruitfully, it means you are not going to be as productive as you should be. And if you are not going to be as productive as you should be, if you don't have the skills, the knowledge, the values that employers are looking for, it means if the way to finding food and putting it on the table for yourself and your family is to get paid, get into paid employment, then you're not going to find one because employers are looking for problem solvers. And if the alternative is for you to set up a business of your own, we know that it takes good quality thinking. Entrepreneurs have values, have skills that they use to be able to campaign for opportunities in a very competitive environment. So when the education you seem to have received hasn't empowered you to be able to read and write, you can't access information in the kind of world we live in now. Because if you are not literate, you can't function on the internet on the internet space. And so such people are at great disadvantage. They won't be able to use a smartphone, because for you to be able to use a smartphone, you should be literate. If you're not literate, you don't know how to open a phone, you don't know how to type, you don't know how to read, you don't know how to go to websites and search for opportunities and take full advantage of them. You probably may not even know how to do banking, operations, so you cannot even access opportunities that banks provide. And so in every sense, people who are not literate and who haven't received functional education, who can't think properly, who are not analytical in the way they look at life, are at great disadvantage in the world we live in today. They are shortchanged by society, and they have not been empowered. So in spite of the fact that we think that our population that is now, as we hear, over 220 million, it's supposed to bring us some dividends, but unfortunately, it's only when population is empowered that we can talk about demographic dividend. We are not yet there. So that's why there's so much poverty in our country, because we have so many people, but many of them, after even they have gone through school, they have remained illiterate. And even the ones that are able to read and write, the quality of thinking is nothing to write home about. And that's why you also find high levels of graduate unemployment, because our graduates are being trained in places, our students are being trained in places without technology and without also good quality teachers. I run a teachers platform. We are the largest teachers platform in the world today. That's Nigerian Teachers Community. And I tell you that our members complain on a daily basis that they are not getting the kind of training they need to be able to do their job well in the classrooms. And I know that is the truth. The kind of professors we have in our universities who are training the teachers, they themselves need to go back to school to learn. There's so much emphasis on lesson note, which is not truly empowering the teacher. So much effort is being put into getting children to copy notes which they don't understand, rather than helping our teachers to know how to work with children, to make them truly individuals who can think and interact with others, acquire communication skills, acquire leadership skills, learn how to work in groups and teams. That way, we'll be able to collaborate and then, achieve synergistic effects that will empower everyone. So, my sister, I think that we are sitting on a place that is not comfortable. If we are not careful, these things are going to create huge problems for us in the nearest future.
All right, still on the issue of access to quality education, let's address the issue of the access, which is what Blessing is talking about, making reference to a place like Nigeria, where according to UNICEF, the out-of-school children, the statistics released as of May this year, 18.3 million children out of school in Nigeria, which has positioned Nigeria as the highest number of out-of-school children in the world now. That sounds alarming, but the question is, how did Nigeria get to this level? These are critical issues that should be looked into. And then what will be the starting point for Nigeria? Because the essence of this goal is to ensure that this set of people have access to quality education. We're not even talking about the quality now, but these are people who are not just having access to the four walls of these schools, 18.3 million children. How do you react to this?
Yes, I supported earlier that the endemic security challenge we have in the north eastern part of the country has remained there. So you can't get these children back to classrooms if you don't deal with the security threats in that region. It's not just the children refusing to go to school because they are not, their parents don't feel that they are safe in schools. It's also about getting, teachers to be comfortable living in those parts and going to school to teach. The average Nigerian teacher doesn't want to teach in the northeastern part of the country because from every information that we have, it's not a safe place to work, and especially when these teachers are also not paid well. So if you want to get more children back into the classroom, the government has to be on top of security. We have to deal with the challenges that terrorists are posing of lives and property in the northeastern part of the country. That doesn't look like something that the government has dealt with. They are not on top of it, and that's very unfortunate. So let them use all the arsenal they have at their disposal to deal with security challenges in the northeastern part of the country. And we also know now that that problem is also moving into northwestern part of the country, even north central, and gradually penetrating the southern part of the country. So we have to deal with security, challenges in our country if we want to get more children to go to school. Beyond security, poverty is a discouraging factor. Parents are using their children to make money. So on a typical day when some children are supposed to be in school, they're in the streets selling. I don't completely blame the parents because we have run an economy that is not productive. So parents are not able to earn enough to be able to put food on the table for their entire family. So their children have become part of the workforce, working for the family to be able to find food to eat. So we need to work on our economy. We need to create more jobs. We need to urgently begin to think of how to industrialize. We also need to be sure that our children are able to eat. If I hear about the food food program in schools, but that has not been properly done. We probably might have to think of cash transfer system that enables that money to get into the hands of parents rather than giving it to politicians who pretend they are providing food, whereas they're just using it to prepare for the next election. So children shouldn't sit in classrooms on an empty stomach, and we expect them to be able to learn. A hungry person certainly is distracted, is not going to be able to learn. And we need to improve the conditions under which teachers work so that good quality teachers are able to stay in classrooms and do the job. As we speak now, the average teacher today in any classroom in Nigeria is not happy being there. He's there because he hasn't found the kind of job he's looking for. Once he finds a job that pays better, he leaves. So most teachers are seeing teaching as a transition job. It's not the place that they can call home. That is not to say they would not love to teach, but unfortunately, the quality, the package available to teachers is very discouraging. That we haven't provided adequate incentives for people to see teaching as an honorable and respectable profession. So we need to show interest in removing these obstacles, and if we're able to do that, then more people will return to classrooms, and we can start talking about good quality education. For the moment, the politicians haven't started, recognizing that these challenges are there. Not to talk about finding ways to move us out of the quagmire.
The first target under the SDG number 4 talks about all boys and girls completing free, equitable, and quality education. Let's look at the completion of this education for primary and secondary school level. I'll give you a personal example of my personal experience. I served in the East, and while I was at that area, I was teaching in a school. So I observed that there are some days of the week while taking a roll call, I would not find certain students in class. And I would ask, why is the student not in class? I would be told, oh, he's gone to the markets to help the brother. He runs the shop with the brother. And even when they come back to school, you try to find out from them why they went to class. They're just like, it feels like the schooling is a distraction for them. So let's talk about the perception of formal education, even by students, by pupils, students of school. Has it changed to become something that is a distraction or a necessary tool that will help in their foundation in life?
Yeah, very good observation you have made there. The truth of the matter is that we haven't done good public relations for education. So the average Nigerian child today sees education as scam because they see people who are not truly educated who have become multimillionaires. And so they wonder why they should, spend ages in school and finish and not get good jobs and probably go back to poverty. Whereas those who haven't really invested well, at the end of the day, end up in parliament, and we use 160 million to buy jeeps for them, and they use several, millions again to put furniture in their homes. They also look around them and they see a lot of people who didn't go to school, who probably have set up businesses and they have become multimillionaires. And that's why you see those children, going to the shops. So we haven't made a deliberate effort to explain what is going on to our children, and that it's not that people who didn't go to school, who have managed to become millionaires, are going to eventually do better in life. That, as a matter of fact, you can own a shop eventually, but if you add education to what you have and you are running a shop, you will do much better than the person who starts running the shop as an illiterate. But that has not been explained to the average Nigerian child, and that's why we are where we are. But without, while we are still on that matter, it's important we remind you that that observation you made, we have to add another one to it, which is that in the southeastern part of Nigeria, I think it's every Monday, they also do sit at home, which it truncates education so you are losing one day every week, you are losing 4 days every month when our children are not in school. And that's very, it's something we should be very unhappy about, which again has a lot to do with the political challenges in our country. So the politicians should deal with their problem, which the problems they have created, the IPOB, the Nnamdi Kanu, and whatever be the challenges they have there. They should get together and deal with that, so that our children are able to go to school Monday to Friday and concentrate and learn. And then let's do public relations for education. Education is not scam. Educated people generally do better than those who are not educated. As I'm an education scientist, and we have enough data to prove that indeed, if you want to migrate out of poverty and find comfort in life on an enduring basis, the route to that place is education. And we have seen this proven in countries that know what they're doing. I do research in the Scandinavia, in Finland, in Sweden, in Norway, and we know that a major reason why they are doing very well economically, socially, politically is because they have 100%, virtually all those countries I've mentioned, have 100% literacy rate. And it's not just about being able to read and write. They also have truly functional education, and their societies are places anybody who wants to have good life will want to live in. When I meet Americans, the French, the Canadians, and the British in places like Canada, in places like Finland and Norway, they don't want to go back to their own countries because these people have got it right, via education. So education remains the tool for empowering people, but our politicians, unfortunately, haven't recognized the need for us to do adequate image, laundering for education, so that our children stop seeing it as scam.
All right. In an environment where there are several challenges, now let's talk about how to achieve or promote lifelong learning opportunities. I like the word lifelong, which means all through the existence as human being, you're supposed to be committed to learning. But you're aware of this popular, impression or perception in the literacy world that the best way to hide an information from an African man is to put it in a book. Now, that might not be absolutely true in some sense because there are certain individuals who have chosen to be different. But in an environment where that exists, how do you promote lifelong learning opportunities for all? What could be the likely challenge here? And then how do we overcome it?
Well, we haven't, as I said, done appropriate image laundering for education. So even with our parents send their children to school to go and acquire meal ticket, academic credentials. So there's so much focus on, study, cram, write exams, pass, make 9 A's in school certificate exam to be able to get into university. And then when you get there, you start campaigning for they need to finish with the 2-1 so that you can get a good job. But we know today that is not how it works. If you get certificates and you don't have skills and knowledge that confirm what your certificate is saying you are still not going to be a very successful person. So that's an observation that we should not lose sight of. The way to ensure that our children find love reading is to get our parents to also learn to read. As we know in education, we have two major ways by which you can get a child to learn new things. So you can model it or you can do it by way of precept. Precept means you preach to the child, wash your hand every day. But if you want the child to really wash her hand every day, the best way to do it is to wash your hand every day, all the time. When the child sees you doing so, the child will just copy you. But that's not what we do in Nigeria. So parents don't read and they expect their children to read. That's not going to happen. Teachers, interestingly, who are actually at the center of provoking education, they don't read. I talk to teachers on a regular basis, and there are many teachers in this country. In fact, the majority of them haven't finished a book in the last 1 year. And so if teachers are not modeling reading, why are you expecting children to fall in love with reading? And there's so much emphasis on writing exams and getting credentials. And that's what is promoting examination malpractice. And we clap hands a lot for people who finish school with good grades, and we don't bother about whether they have knowledge and skills that match the grades that they are presenting to us. Nobody cares. So long as you have the good grades, your parents celebrate, your parents give testimony in church, and everybody claps hands. So we need to start showing good examples to children, and the people who have to show these good examples are parents and the teachers. If teachers read and parents read, the children will copy them. But for these things to happen, we must also know that parents need to live in a society where they can find time to read. It's not a society where it's difficult to find, food and put on the table for the family. So you have parents who leave home at 5 a.m. and they don't come home until 10 p.m. They are just searching for food to put on the table for their family. So when they come home, they are very tired. So we also need to get our politicians to run a proper economy so that we can have some hours left in the hands of parents so that they can read and the children can see them read. We can't just preach to children to read when they don't see adults read. It doesn't happen that way. My children are able to read, and they in fact, they probably read much more than I do because they have seen me over the years read every day, no matter how busy my schedule is. So we need to show those good examples. And we haven't got libraries, we haven't got the books. We don't buy books and give to the children for free, really. We ask the children to pay for the books that they have to read. And their parents haven't got the money to give them food, not talk about giving them money to buy books to read. So government must see education as an investment, not as a cost. Unfortunately for us, where we are is a place where government sees the money they spend on education as a cost, not as an investment. The countries that have got it right are countries that have seen education as an investment, not as a cost. And once we're able to make that paradigm shift, seeing education as an investment and not as a cost, we'll be able to put more money in it and be willing to wait for the long term for the fruits to come. And when we talk about delayed gratification, education is an investment you make today, and you probably will reap the benefits in 10 years' time, sometimes 20, 30 years. But when the benefits do come, they come as an avalanche. You make a lot of money in the process. You have a better society. You have, you eliminate crime completely, because everybody can now cater for themselves, and they will not be envious of what their neighbors have. So, Femi, this is the way to go. We need to make it easy for parents to find time to read. We need to give children free books. We need to give them assignments that cannot be done only after you have read the books. And we also need to train the teachers to learn how to, provoke reading by first showing good examples, and by giving tests that are based on reading the books that the government has provided for free. If we continue to insist that we have to pay for education the way we're doing now, I'm not sure that we're going to get to a place where our children fall in love with reading. So reading culture, we have to work on it.
Lifelong learning. You find that in this part of the world when someone has missed the time at which they were supposed to register for school, talking about elementary school, secondary school, and maybe because they didn't have the opportunity at that particular time, and they get to a certain age, maybe at 20, that's when they want to acquire education. It becomes difficult. Let's look at some barriers, some physical and structural barriers to lifelong learning. How many adults learning centers do we have in Nigeria, for instance? And how are they structured to help those who didn't have the opportunity at an early age to start learning but want to get an education?
Yeah, well, adult education remains a very problematic area in our country. We all know, it's an open secret, that we are not making adequate provisions for even children to be able to get good quality education. So the question is, if you haven't provided adequately for the children, why are you worrying about the adults who probably missed it when it was their own time? So a few states have some provisions, in terms of adult learning centers, but those places are not adequately equipped. They have also not been promoted. Awareness has not been created as to their existence. And some of those places exist only in theory. There are no teachers in those places because we don't have a good adequate number of teachers for the regular, schools. Not to talk about providing for those who are coming to learn in their adult, in their adulthood. So we are struggling in that area. And so most of the adults who want to go back to school have to pay from their pocket. And that's not good for us, because if we recognize that an educated parent is going to do much better for the children than an illiterate parent, then we have to also put money into that to be able to equip our parents to up their game. Because when a parent goes to school and learns and acquires skills, the parents' even income level will improve, and the parent will become a parent who will work with the children to also get them to learn effectively. We work, for example, mothers it's established via research that mothers who are literate generally tend to bring up children who get better education than mothers who are illiterate. So, but unfortunately, government hasn't seen this kind of arrangement as an investment, which I have already signposted. They see everything as a cost and not as an investment. So we need to still get back to politicians and get them to understand that the money they spend to equip adults with the knowledge, skills, and the right values they need to be able to function in society is that any effort to make in that direction is a good effort for society, and is even good for the politicians themselves. This whole idea of thinking that they can live in silos and they are not going to be able to go through the challenges the rest of us are going through because they have police people who follow them about. It's only when big problems have not started. So they need to get more realistic and stop assuming that what will not happen will happen. And what will happen will not happen. Until they begin to face those realities, Nigeria will continue to struggle.
Right. I would like us to review the targets for SDG goal number 4 now, because the essence of this conversation is to see how we can shape policy. What you have for the first one, the first target, which is subsection 1, says proportion of children and young people in grades 2, 3 at the end of primary and lower secondary education should be able to achieve at least minimum or proficiency level in reading and mathematics. Now you have a specific here which has to do with children between the age 2 and 3 to be able to achieve the level of proficiency when it comes to reading and visual mathematics. Give us a picture of what is playing out in the Nigerian educational sector as regards this. What level are we as a country, and what can be done to improve the level of proficiency for this age bracket as regards this SDG goal number 1?
Well, you have to interpret that correctly. It's not age 2 and 3 for you to be able to read. No, we are talking about grade 2 and 3. It's not age 2 and 3. We are not expecting a child who is age 2 to be able to read and write. We're not expecting a child who is even at the age of 3 to be able to read and write. We're expecting you to be able to read and write when you get to about age 7, age 8, really, age 9. And that's a proper thing. In Nigeria, what you find is that we start worrying about reading and writing from very early stages in our lives, age 2, age 3. That's not what that SDG element is talking about. It's saying,
can I clarify, Doctor, please? What
please
is being stated here is minimum proficiency level when it comes to reading. The minimum proficiency level when it comes to reading. That's the emphasis here.
Yeah, so minimum proficiency level, yes, you need to be numerate, once you get to those stages in the education system. So to provide you some help, the truth we know is that many of our children are finishing high school, are finishing SS3, and they are still not literate. They can't write simple letters. They are not able to tell you the answer when you ask them 2 plus 3 minus 4 plus 5. They will struggle to provide you the right answer. And the reason is simple. We haven't got good teachers, really, because mathematics is not a subject that the average Nigerian wants to go and study. Because any subject you are going to the university to study, and it will make you finish and you become a teacher. Because teaching is not an honorable profession in Nigeria, the way we have presented it, the average Nigerian child who is going to university doesn't want to go and do single honor, do BEd education, specializing in mathematics, specializing in physics. And until you're able to get good quality teachers in mathematics, and who will help to train the next set of teachers who will also be able to teach mathematics at higher levels. For that long will you continue to struggle? Most of the people who are teaching mathematics in secondary school now are engineers who didn't study mathematics, because we haven't got adequate number of mathematics teachers, because mathematics teachers are not paid well, and that's because we don't know the value. And so long as we continue to treat teachers as the dregs of society, people who don't matter, and everybody prefers to go and do politics where you take millions every month without doing much for society, for that long we will continue, to have the kind of situation we have in our hands. Even English language, you go and research in our universities, you also find that in faculties of education where you have, Bachelor of Education in English language and literature, those are not areas that we are investing adequately in. And most people who even eventually study education in the Faculty of Education, they don't end up in classrooms. They just don't like teaching because teachers are not paid well. So they finish and they become content creators. A lot of the things you are seeing on the internet, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube, the people creating them are people who should be teachers after they have studied English language or Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo. But we are not paying them well, so they use their skills to go and do things that other than sit down in classrooms and work with children to give them the literacy skills that all of us are desiring.
We're still talking about education for all, that is the SDG number 4, ensuring access to free, equitable, and quality education. That's a goal the countries of the world are pursuing. Every country has till 2030 to ensure that goal is achieved. How well countries of the world doing in that aspect, particularly in Nigeria? Charity, they say, begin from home, and that's why we are talking about the situation back home in Nigeria, from where we're reaching you live. And we have a guest who is an education researcher looking into this. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, looking at early childhood development in terms of cognitive development, social skills, and future learning process, how well are we doing? Now, until the private schools came in and brought in some special form of education for children, it was a regular thing for every child. The same process that is being used at the secondary level is what is used at the primary level. How far have we gone?
Well, I have been, emphasizing the fact that we are not training our teachers well. And until you can't give what you do not have. Most of our teachers have not been properly trained. And we can't blame the teachers for lacking the skills that they need to be able to run proper classrooms. It's the government's responsibility to ensure that the people who put in our classrooms as role models, as teachers, as those who are going to provoke education, are people who we have given the right skills to do the jobs that society has placed on their shoulders. That's not where we are. And so we need to revolutionize the way we teach, we train our teachers. And we should not keep doing what we're doing now, where even when you think that private people who haven't finished their school certificate properly, who are teachers, they don't even have NC. And even those who have managed to go and study up to degree level in the universities, some of them haven't also been, fortunate to be taught by good quality lecturers. And you can't also blame the lecturers. Our governments are not paying well for excellent minds to stay back in universities and become lecturers who will now give you the kind of teachers who will come to the classrooms in primary, secondary, and probably at higher levels to do the kind of work we all want them to do. So if we haven't done the basics, why are you expecting that we are going to start paying attention to have to give our children leadership skills and social skills? Because even the teachers themselves do not know that it is part of their responsibility to not only provide literacy and numeracy, advantages to children, that they also have to run with the school leaders a system that enables the children finish without only certificate, but also in addition with skills that enable them to play leadership roles, to work in teams, to be able to collaborate, to learn how to find opportunities, develop social skills, and be able to attract social capital to themselves, which they can convert to financial capital, which eventually will lead them out of poverty. But the type of education we are providing is not comprehensive. There's so much focus on just scholastic aptitude rather than including the psychomotor skills, and of course training children to acquire the right attitudes to work, to relating with the environment. So education is supposed to give you three major things: gives you cognitive skills, gives you affective focus on the cognitive element, and we are not investing in giving children the psychomotor skills and the affective skills that will enable them to collaborate with others and do well. And that's probably why there's so much conflict in society, because we are not good listeners. Everybody wants to talk and nobody wants to listen. And the school system has a duty to try and balance what we're teaching. We should stop devoting 100% of our time to only teaching children how to read and write and how to pass chemistry, physics, and biology. We should also help them to acquire leadership skills, communication skills, team building skills, team membership skills, right from the beginning stages of the education, so that we can have a society that cares. We can have people who are truly globally competitive. We can have people who persevere, who are persistent, who are analytical, who are creative, who are innovative. We are not yet providing that type of education to most of Nigerian children.
Right. What an interesting narrative. The SDG goal number 4 also talked about the need to achieve proficiency in mathematics. You agree with me? That's a particular subject most students they struggle with. In fact, the last report for the last JAM stated that 77% of students who sat for that exam failed that subject, mathematics. What do you think is likely responsible for this mass failure when it comes to mathematics? I know you identified the issue of teachers and all that. But to correct this narrative, which is also putting our society in a negative light, what can be done to ensure that this mass failure is being tackled?
There's no magic about how to get that situation reversed. The teacher is at the center of the education system. He's the hub. He's the fulcrum. If you don't treat him well, if you don't do public relations for mathematics, you are not going to have our children, believe in mathematics. So the average Nigerian child believes that mathematics is an impossible subject to learn. And the reason why that is the case is because most of the people who have been teaching it, across the country are people who are not trained mathematics teachers. Most of them are people who studied engineering, and then because they couldn't find factories where they can work, they automatically become teachers of mathematics and physics. Unfortunately for society, we keep thinking that what it takes to teach is just knowledge of that subject. That's not true. So knowing the subject is important, and knowing how to teach it is 50% of the story. But in the case of Nigeria, we only recruit people who probably know some level of that subject, and we miss the other 50%, which is how to give people what you have. So until we are able to train the mathematics teachers, in a way that enables them to know how to give what they have to other people, for that long will our children continue to study, to struggle with mathematics. So the maths we teach here, we teach it in a way that makes it too much of an abstract. We don't relate it to everyday experience. How even the food you cook requires mathematics, how your movement on the road requires mathematics, how even the water you drink and everything, how things are in proportion, probabilities, and all of those things. We don't teach. So the children are only cramming formula, and not every child is very good at cramming formula. So when children try and they are not able to cram and give it back to the system, they find it very discouraging, and so they quit and conclude that mathematics is an impossible subject to learn. So principally, it's just a matter of the people teaching it are not teaching it well. So we need to give incentive. We don't lose much really by giving scholarship to everybody who wants to go to university to study mathematics education. That's one way to get out of it, and it's a very simple way. What you'll find is that the best brains will move in that direction. Maths and physics, and probably to some extent, since we have adopted English as our lingua franca, also English language grammar, not literature. Those three areas are key for us. If we can get excellent teachers who will give scholarship to go and learn those things, at government expense, they will come back, and then they have to sign bonds that when they finish, they are not going anywhere. They are going to stay in the school system and help us to upgrade the quality of teaching that's available in those areas. Once you do that, I tell you, our problems will disappear. The reason why children don't love mathematics is because mathematics is not presented well to them. It's presented as a subject that is impossible, and the reason why that is the case is because the people teaching it are not teaching it well.
Dr. Victor Ogudoro, researcher, education researcher, career and change coach, we thank you so much for being with us on Early Exchange today. I do hope that after this time, a lot will be done, particularly the scholarship that you recommend, and we'll have friendly mathematics teacher, because some of them were not friendly, and that's why some of us didn't like mathematics as a subject. Thank you so much for your time on Early Exchange.
My pleasure. Do have a great day.
All right, this is where we'll draw the curtain on today's edition of Early Exchange. It's been an exciting one. The conversations have been great. I'm sure you agree. Please feel free to go over to our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Sook News TV, and drop a comment. The conversation continues now with you. You can watch the show from beginning and previous editions of Early Exchange and other shows on Sook News TV. From our YouTube channel at Sook News TV. I'm Blessing H. I'll see you next time.
All right, still talking about the issue of lifelong learning experience. It's important as individuals will commit to lifelong learning, because you are a victim of what you don't know, which is why we are reviewing these goals for you to understand the necessity of learning. Don't forget, this conversation continues on our social media platform, and Market Insight will be coming up at 11. As you know that, Early Exchange, your award-winning program, will be getting bigger and better. I am Femi Ayodele. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.
Daily Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.